Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to another exciting episode of Psychology Talks. And I'm your host, Amreen Nadeem. And today we're going to discuss how to optimize LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, why LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn is one of my favorite social media platform. And I've seen a lot of people join or spend a lot of time on social media. And we have seen the number of user increased after the COVID because when there was a lockdown, a lot of people started using social media and they were spending a lot of time on social media. But there are two ways to actually use social media. Some people spend a lot of time, they scroll a lot of content, they read posts, they comment on this, they sometimes upload their photos and everything, but at the end they don't get anything, so they spend a lot of time, yet they are unable to leverage social media. And then there are people who are using it in a right way. They create their identity, they create a stamp, and then they create opportunities through using social media in a right way. And that's why I've invited today the guest who is the guru of social media, and he helps his client to scale their business by creating impactful presence on social media. And he's specialized in on LinkedIn. So he's the founder of Result Formula, and he's also one of the top 50 most impactful people on LinkedIn. So let's welcome Derek Millard. Hello, Derek. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's an honor to have you today with us.
Hello, Ambreen, and thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm honoured, truly. Thank you.
You're most welcome. So I actually gave a little bit of introduction about you, that you are the expert on social media. But before we start the proper formal discussion, just tell us a little bit about yourself, that how you came into this field, why you chose this, or any obstacle struggles you face. So tell us a little bit about yourself so our audience get to know you better.
Well, basically, I am a social media coach and trainer, and I specialise in primarily LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as Instagram. And
Mhm.
what literally happened is I initially signed up for LinkedIn way back in 2004. I was one of the first less than 2 million people to originally sign up for the platform. However, I did very little with it. I basically did nothing with it until 2013 when a friend of mine walked into the office. And at this particular time, I was building websites and doing SEO for people all over Australia. And this friend of mine walked into the office and she said she had just heard LinkedIn described as the professional or business version of Facebook. And I thought, that sounds interesting. Maybe I should have another look at that. And so I found my old original login details, logged into the platform for the first time in many years to discover I had a low 207 connections. And it was then in 2013 that my real journey on LinkedIn began. And the first thing that I did was I looked around for some people that I could see had an understanding of the platform, some people that I could see knew what they were doing. And I started to learn from them. And I connected with them and learned even more from them just by asking them questions and looking at what they were doing, studying what they were doing. And so then I started writing articles. And it was really interesting because I wrote over 150 articles about websites and what a website should include, and some tips on SEO and advice and suggestions. And what would happen is I would get some people who would interact with my articles with a like and a comment and even ask me questions. And I'd get other people who'd sit back and just watch. And the reason or the way that I discovered this was I started generating inquiries just from these articles. And I would get a phone call, I would get an email, I would get a message in my inbox, and people would be saying to me or asking me, we'd like to talk to you about doing a website for us. And so naturally, I would ask them, where did you hear about me from? And they'd say, LinkedIn. And so this was an interesting lesson because some of these people who had been reading my articles hadn't liked or hadn't commented at all.
Oh, okay.
They had just been watching in the background. This is what made me realize that just by putting content out there, you are positioning yourself as a respected authority in your industry, and you are building your reputation as a provider, as a supplier of the products or services that you provide. So that's basically how I got started, was back in 2013. And then I had some clients turn around to me and ask me, do you know anybody who can look after our social media for them? And I said, yeah, sure, I can do that for you. And so I started off looking after their Facebook. Meanwhile, I was concentrating a lot of efforts on LinkedIn. And then I started looking after some LinkedIn for some clients. And everything just grew from there. Now I have a LinkedIn for Business course. I have LinkedIn for Business course and coaching. And yeah, it's been a wonderful journey.
Wow, that's amazing actually, and actually, you're absolutely right. There is so many people who actually do not even comment, but they are the real. They add real value to our business, or they are the real clients because a lot of people like with whom I interacted with, and of course with my marketing research profession, uh, whoever the clients I have generated were the ones who never actually commented on my post, yet
Yeah.
they've been following me. So this is a very important thing. But I would just also want to ask that there are a lot of people who are actually just silently watching, or they are the, I would say, silent. Silent audience, right? But they are a good value to us. But when we talk from their perspective, because they are not there to build identity, so are they losing anything? Or do you recommend that everyone start using social media to create identity, or you do not recommend that it's
Let
okay,
me
like
let me
some
put it
people
to you
use
this
social
way:
media? Yeah.
a silent audience
Yeah.
can still be an interested audience. Okay, just because somebody is silent, there can be many reasons they don't want to like and comment at that particular time. They could be busy doing something else. I mean, we all have busy lives. They could be busy with their work or something like that. They might not have the time there and then. Okay, because sometimes making a comment, you put a little bit of thought into your comment and what you're going to say, etc., etc. So a silent audience is not necessarily a disinterested audience. It could be just a matter of poor timing. Okay. And so they might be quite willingly want to come back and make that comment, and just get caught up in their daily lives. This happens. But interestingly, and this is where social media is so powerful, is that when somebody wants to know more about you, okay, so when that silent audience member wants to know more about you, your business, your products or services or solutions, they're going to have a look at your profile. And so the question becomes, when they look at your profile, what are they going to see? And ultimately, what are they going to see that's going to entice them, that's going to encourage them to want to read further, to want to know more about you and how you can possibly help them? And so that's where your profile becomes an ongoing work in progress. It's never 100% perfect, because just like our lives, our careers, etc., we have changes happening. And so there's going to be updates that people do to their profile over time. But the important point is, when somebody who's interested in what you do and how you can possibly help them wants to know more about you and they look at your profile, they should always be impressed by what they see.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right that, this is, I would say that like our profile tells a lot about us. And here we comes to another question that, okay, so what are the major things that one should actually keep a look on this, or maybe like they should give extreme importance when they are making a profile on LinkedIn to actually, to, it's not only to impress people, but to tell them authentically what they are, yet to create an identity in a way that attract more clients. So what
Yeah.
are the major tips I would say that you should give?
Well, before I delve into what your profile should include, there's two ways that I describe LinkedIn. Number one, to me, LinkedIn is the world's largest database of businesses, their owners, and their employees. And when you think about that, I'm sure you'll agree that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's also a tool that you use to get a conversation started. and your profile plays an important part in that. Okay, so what should your profile include? When somebody opens up your profile, the first three things that they initially notice are your banner image,
Yeah.
your face pic, and your headline. Okay. Now, your banner image, I describe it's being a little bit like the cover of a book. If you can imagine, you walk into a bookstore, it's the cover of that book, it's the title of that book that grabs your attention, and you'll take that book off the shelf and you'll flick through it and decide if you're going to take the next step and purchase that book. Well, your banner image is what entices the viewer or reader of your profile to want to read further. It's one of the first things that really stands out that they see. So ultimately, your banner image, it's a good idea to include a key benefit statement aimed squarely towards your target audience. In other words, what's in it for them? Okay. They want to read what's in it for them, lots of you type conversation. So a key benefit statement aimed squarely at them. Your face pic, always try to have a nice, attractive face pic. And there's a platform that you can use to actually test your face pics. It's called photofeeler.com. I highly recommend it.
This is interesting. Yeah, I
And
never knew that.
well, at photofeeler.com, you can literally upload your face pic, and members of the audience will literally vote on it, and they'll give you some feedback on it.
That's very
They
interesting.
will literally tell you
Yeah.
how likable, how
Okay.
intellectual, and basically how professional you look with your face pic. Okay.
Wow.
And then they'll give you some feedback on it. And so this is valuable information when you might have 2 or 3 shortlisted face pics that you think are good pictures of you. You're finding it hard to decide which is the best one for you to use. Just upload them to photofeeler.com, and
Yeah,
based on the audience's,
Okay.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Based on the audience feedback, you can figure out which is the best face pic for you to use. One tip with regards to face pics, it's always a good idea to try and have a face pic with a clear, non-distracting background, preferably a white background. Okay. So PhotoFeeler is just an awesome platform. The next thing that I would also recommend is to have a headline that also talks to your audience. And there's a very simple, very straightforward headline strategy, which is I help X, and X is your target audience. So I help your target audience achieve Y, and Y is their most desired result with my Z, which can be your product, your services, your process, etc. Okay, so I help your target audience achieve their most desired result with my product, services, or exclusive processes, etc. And then mention your social proof. Okay. And I'll talk to you more about that in just a moment. So those are the top 3 things that you want to have at the top of your profile. Then if you scroll down a good profile, the next thing that really stands out is the featured section. And this is where a lot of people will add their most popular content, for example, and that's fine. I like to use the featured section to add more social proof, so video recommendations, etc. They go very well in there. You can have links to your calendar so people can book a time with you, links to your website so people can see more about you via your website, YouTube channel, etc. So the featured section is the next part that really stands out. Then when you scroll down further, you've got your about section, you've got your experience section. Your about section, in its condensed mode, you have 2 lines along the top. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that first line, when you think about your objective, you want the reader to want to open up that about section and read further. You've got 2,600 characters in there to really make a good impression about you towards your reader. But when it's compressed, when it's closed, your about section only has those top 2 lines. So those top 2 lines can literally be one of 2 things, either an attention grabbing headline or just tell people exactly what you do.
Right.
Okay. Attention grabbing headline or just tell them exactly what you do. And bearing in mind, your entire profile should be written along the lines of what's in it for them, what's in it for your target audience. So lots of you type conversation. Try to replace the word I with the word
Okay.
you. Okay.
Oh,
And then work
that's
around
good
it
to
that
know.
way. Okay. Look at those
Yeah.
sentences and think, okay, how does this sentence speak to my audience as if they were actually reading it? Okay. So think about what's in it for them. Um, with your experience section, you're allowed 2,000 characters in there. And at the base of your about section and your experience section, I highly recommend that you add your contact details. I
Oh,
believe firmly in making it as easy as possible for people to be able to reach out and get in touch with you after they've just read all about you, what you do, how you can help them. Okay. At the base of your experience sections, you can have media, so you can add case studies, you can have um, videos that add value without selling to your audience. You can have PDFs, documents, etc. So you can put a lot in there that basically adds value without selling to your target audience, especially at the base of your experience sections. So those are just some of the areas that will get you started to having a really impressive looking profile that stands out and has a good, strong impact towards your target audience.
yeah, wow, amazing insight. I like the photo filler thing, and especially like the three things that you mentioned that in the headline.
Yeah.
The way it needs to be crafted. It's very important because that's not even the headline. I believe is the one that even when we comment on some other post or something, it goes with our name. So I think
Yeah.
that it should be the one that tells exactly that who we are and what do we do. So
Yeah.
in brief. Exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing that now I also want to ask that okay, this the entire section that you just described is basically more relevant for the people who may be who are looking for client or something. So what about the ones who are actually looking for a job? They may not be attracting client through the profile, but they may need to attract recruiter or they need to get attention for from the hiring manager. So how they can actually design their profile in a way that attract the recruiters and employers.
Okay, so most recruiters, employers, HR departments of small, medium to larger size companies, for many years now, have not wanted to see long, highly
Yeah,
detailed resumes. Okay,
yeah,
and the general rule over the last many years has been 2 to 3 pages for a resume maximum. Okay, now when you think about that, for somebody who might have been in the workforce for 10 years or 20 years or
yeah.
30 years. That's a lot of information to try and cram into a 2 or 3 page resume. So, therefore, think about your LinkedIn profile as having everything on your profile that complements your resume.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
And so that's how you could set up your profile so that it complements your resume. Again, think about it from the position of your audience, the viewer, the reader, that HR department, that recruiter who is reading through your profile, and what do they want to see to generate interest in you?
Right, right. Yeah, that's I think that's a very brilliant idea that most of the time people write everything, like whatever they've done in the 10 years. And that's the main difference that they need to realize that LinkedIn profile is not a CV or resume. And that exactly as you said, that it's the profile that complements their
Yes,
resume. So it attracts, maybe you just need to write the main highlights of the career that you have been maybe main achievements, so that's how they can attract attention from recruiters and from the employers. Okay, so this is really interesting, and I'm learning a lot from this session. Moving on, like further, especially about when we go to the about section, right? This is
mm-hmm.
the one of the very important section, as like especially the ones maybe if we have attract the attention of our like maybe the employer or the client the or the people who would prospect maybe. So how what should be the strategy to write the about section? What should we include? You just mentioned, I know that we should have like more contact details, but what exactly how to craft about section in a very impressive way?
Okay, if you're a person in business, okay, and you're using LinkedIn to build professional business relationships with prospects that eventually you want to convert into sales, okay, so most people in business, they are in business to provide one of three things: either products,
Yeah,
services, or solutions,
yeah,
okay. And so with that in mind, once you've got your two first lines of your about section written, so that can be an attention grabbing headline or just tell people exactly what you do. The other thing too is when you're writing those first two lines, check how it displays on your mobile phone, on your cell phone,
oh,
because you'll find that only about 2/3 of that top line will display on your cell phone. Okay. So you want to make sure that you get that point across about that intention, that attention grabbing headline, or telling people exactly what you do in that first 2/3 of that top line. Okay, so double check that on your mobile phone, because potentially 50% of your audience can be looking at your profile from their phone. All right.
yeah,
Then when they open up your about section, I learned this many years ago from Tony Robbins, and he said that people in life do things for two reasons: to avoid pain and to gain pleasure. And when
wow,
people are looking for a product, a service, or a solution, they have a pain point, they have a
right,
challenge, they have an issue, they have a problem that they need a solution to. Okay. And your business, what you provide, is the solution to that very problem. Okay. So what you would do is you would ask the audience about their pain point. You would identify a pain point.
yeah,
Okay. So you ask them about their pain point, and your business provides the solutions to that pain point. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. It's basically to find out the. I really like the way you just said that the people actually look for any like the client or maybe the product or services. Basically, they are either want to avoid the pain points or to gain the pleasure or something. And this is exactly sums up that what exactly we should be writing in our about section. We should know that even if we are providing a solution, how
Mhm.
they are able, how we are able to actually help them to remove that pain from their lives or to
Exactly.
help them out to have such pleasures in the life. So this is I think this is the main objective that I think everyone should have it in mind before writing about section or even before starting a business, because they should know exactly that what exactly they are offering to the client. So
Yeah.
that's an amazing tip. Okay, so now moving on to the the social media part. Like LinkedIn is a place where people share a lot of content every day, and I think that is one of the major, I would say, technique or the way that people grab attention from the clients, from the prospect, from the employers, because whatever the content we post, it actually shapes our identity, right? So what
Mhm.
are your tips on like creating content? How many times should they like appear or post the content in a day or in a month? So what should be the strategy, especially in creating the content?
Okay. When it comes to content, 4 words: add
Okay.
value without selling.
Yes.
Okay. Add value without selling. Okay. And this is key, and I'll explain exactly why. Most people have received a sales pitch inside their inbox. Okay.
Yeah.
And they know, everybody out there who has been in that situation knows exactly how they react when they get that sales pitch inside their inbox. Okay. And
Yes.
most of us, 99 point whatever percent of us, are usually not happy to receive that sales pitch. And the reason for that
Absolutely. Mhm.
is because it's too early in the conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's when you get the sales pitch inside your inbox. It's even earlier in the conversation when you get that sales pitch in a post.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And
That's true.
so if you if you sell on social media, you run the risk of basically alienating or pushing away your potential audience. Okay.
Yeah. That's
And what you literally do is you start to position yourself as a salesperson who's only interested in generating the next sale,
yeah,
versus if you add value without selling, especially with your content, you positioned yourself as a respected authority within your industry.
yeah,
You position yourself as an advisor that people can go to seek the answers to their questions, to ask for advice from. And this is how you start to establish, build, and nurture relationships with those people, so that ultimately, when the time is right, you can take the conversation to the next level, which is actually away from LinkedIn.
hmm,
Okay.
yeah,
And so, what you do with your content is you add value without selling. You position yourself as a respected authority within your industry, as somebody who people can go to ask questions, find the answers to those questions, ask advice from, and that gives you the opportunity to build on the relationship with them, and also to build your reputation, to build your brand as somebody that
yeah.
they know, like, and trust.
Yeah, that, and I think that's really interesting because most of the time people, when they start selling at the first, let's say from the very first post, it actually creates more repulsion rather than attraction. So like people get more annoyed when they see the, especially the post on such thing that maybe like they're inviting to join a let's say workshop or something, when like even when people don't even know them. So like, it's just like that, why should they even bother to actually go or read the post? So as you said that we need to create more trust among the reader and audience. But here I would just say that like a lot of people are impatient because it takes a lot of time to create identity of an expert. So, what is your advice that how much time they should spend before actually selling or creating a conversation, or it's just that they just keep on posting and adding value, or just to create, I mean, or just use social media to create an identity rather than doing some business.
Okay, look at it this way. Pardon me. If you use social media to try and generate the next sale,
Mhm.
you will get frustrated with it very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, because those sales will be few and far between.
Yeah.
If you use social media to establish, build your brand, you'll have a long-term business.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
true.
that's the big difference. So think about it strategically. Think about what is your objective. Do you want just a couple of sales, or do you want sales that are going to go on for years ahead? Okay, obviously
Yeah.
it's the latter. Okay, and so the way that you do that is by building relationships with people, professional relationships with people, and a beautiful way of doing that is basically you treat people the way you would like to be treated.
Yeah.
And so what you literally do is you use LinkedIn as a database, you use it as a tool to get the conversation started, as a tool to establish, build, and nurture that relationship. So when the time is right, you can take that conversation to the next level, which is actually away from LinkedIn. Okay, and that can be a face-to-face meeting, an invitation to an event, a Zoom call, etc. And it's during that conversation away from LinkedIn where you might talk in more detail about the products, services, solutions that you provide, how you can help that particular person, and the fees that you charge. Now, the key with all of this is there's an old saying, and it's very, very true, and that is the best salespeople in the world don't sell. They,
Yes.
they just talk to people.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Nobody really likes being sold to.
Mm.
Okay. But they'll have a casual conversation with you, provided it's a conversation, not a sales
Yeah,
pitch.
yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
And so
So
that's the key. Take the conversation
yeah,
away from LinkedIn and just talk to people.
yeah, I think that's a very brilliant advice that rather than just try to sell everything, we need to genuinely show interest that what is, as you mentioned, that what is the pain point of that person, so we
Yeah.
can offer solution, because whatever
Yeah.
the service we or the anybody provides, it's actually offering a solution in their lives that may be like, just giving them either a pleasure or removing the pain points in their lives. So we need to understand, and that doesn't happen. People would not open up when you try to sell a product. Like, for example, just imagine if someone comes to your door and just starts selling, let's say, a detergent or something. We would never tell that, what's the problem that we are facing, even like in the washing our clothes. So, like, so in generating that conversation requires, I would say, more efforts. And that is when people, I think, need to have patience and have a proper strategy. It's
Yeah.
like it never works without just going random, because I've seen people have just one thing in their mind that they want to sell or they want to start the business, and then when they think about the business, they think about selling product or selling their service or something, and they jump onto selling part so quickly that they'll miss that part of building relationships. So I think that
Yeah.
is very, very important that you just mentioned. One thing that I also want to ask is, what are the major things that one should avoid on social media?
Okay. Number one, selling on social media. That would
Yeah.
be the main thing to avoid. Because, as I said earlier, it's just too early in the conversation. Okay. So that would be the first one that I would recommend. The second point that I would recommend is don't forget about how your profile presents you towards your target audience. So try to make your profile present you as best as possible towards your target audience. Okay. And then with that in mind, think about what's in it for them. What's your target audience looking for from a provider of the services that you provide, from your type of business? What are they looking for? Okay. And if you need to, ask them.
Okay.
Okay. They'll
Yeah.
tell you. Okay. Do you mind if I ask you what are the three main things that you are looking for from a business like mine?
Yeah.
Okay. Or what are the
Yes.
most important things that you look for from a business like mine? And they'll tell you. Okay. And
Yeah.
the more people that you ask, the more feedback that you will get. And all that feedback, that's what you start to put in your profile.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one of the really important points with any LinkedIn profile or anything that you do on social media is this: you can never have too much social proof. Okay.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that can be testimonials, recommendations, reviews, and importantly, video testimonials. Okay. Video testimonials are the best ones. Or actually, one thing that's better than video testimonials is case studies. Okay. So
Oh,
a
wow.
case study can be you identify a problem experienced by your target audience, you describe that problem, you then describe the solution that you provided, the results that were achieved by your client, culminating with a testimonial from your client. Okay, and so that's
Wow.
the basic layout of a case study. And this is something that you can send out to people to set up a call with them. And very importantly, do not include any pricing in your case study,
Yeah.
because you do not want the client or the prospect making a price-based decision before you've had the chance to talk to them. Okay,
Yeah.
so you can never have too much social proof. And another interesting point about social proof is this: most people have made a purchase on eBay. Okay,
Yeah.
and you might go onto eBay and you're looking for a particular product. You find the product at a price point that you're happy with, but you don't know the seller. Okay, you've never dealt with that seller before. And so in the top right hand corner of the page on eBay is the social proof for that seller: how many transactions they've done, what their rating is. And if they've got a good level of social proof, that will help you significantly make your decision if you're going to take a step further and purchase whatever it is that you're buying from that merchant that you've never dealt with before. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the same with your LinkedIn profile. You can never have too much social proof. So try to have as many recommendations, testimonials, etc., on your LinkedIn profile. And the key is you've just got to get comfortable asking for them.
Yeah, we have one question here from Ahmed Al Hamamsi. He said that, so is it okay to ask people for recommendation from your point of view after you build relationship with them?
Absolutely. If you've provided them with some coaching or a product or a service or some added value in some particular way, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I think and I've seen that that recommendation, like the more recommendation we have on the profile, it also shows on the Google search. Like if someone searches our name or something, it appears in our, like, when they search our name or something. So I think this is very important to have more recommendation on our profile.
Yes. And ultimately, you want to have received a lot more recommendations than what you've given. And also, preferably, try not to have too many matching names received and
Okay.
given, because when you've got matching names in there, people can see that you're doing a friend or a colleague a favor and they're doing you a favor. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you've received a lot more than what you've given, then that adds a lot more credibility to the recommendations that you have.
Yeah, that's a brilliant advice. I know this. We can go on talking about this for hours, but the time of our show is limited and it's reached to an end. But before we actually close the show, what one advice would you give to our audience today?
Just get started. And also understand and appreciate your LinkedIn profile. It's an ongoing work in progress. It will
Yeah.
never be 100% perfect. Mine is not 100% perfect. Many of the influencers that I know, they will also tell you exactly the same. So just get started, treat it as an ongoing work in progress, and enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's one more question, that how can I use my LinkedIn account for receiving accounting for data for my service? I don't understand. We actually understood this question correctly. Maybe if you can elaborate more, that what sort of accounting data you want to receive, then maybe or if you know if you understood the question, then maybe you could advise.
I'm How can I use my LinkedIn account for receiving and accounting for data of my services? Um, I'm not entirely sure what you're asking there. Um, LinkedIn is a database, as I mentioned earlier. There are a couple of subscription models for LinkedIn. One of them is called LinkedIn Premium, and the other one is called Sales Navigator. And Sales Navigator gives you access to more finely tune or finally a finer approach in your targeting towards more and more people who are within your target audience. So if you're asking about targeting more people who are a match for your ideal prospect, then Sales Navigator is what you would use for that. But I'm not sure if that is where that question is going.
Yeah, I don't understand that as well. So I think maybe if you have any question, then you can get in touch with the with Derek, and then he can guide you directly.
Sure.
So what you can tell us that how they can reach out to you, or what is the best way to contact you,
Look me up on
our
LinkedIn.
audience?
Just do a search for Derek Mildred and send me a personalized request to connect. You've got 300 characters to do that. I get hundreds of requests to connect literally every week. And a lot of them, people are just pushing the connect button. Okay. So please send me a personalized request to
Yeah.
connect. Mention this conversation that we've been having here or this podcast with Ambreen, and I'll be very happy to connect with you and to help you further.
Yeah, and I think you have this resultformula.com, so they can check out. If you want to find out more about Derek, please check out the website and get in touch through LinkedIn. He's very active on LinkedIn. And as he mentioned, uh, give a personalized inbox and do not pitch. Do not, before sending any message, please do go through the profile, that what exactly the person is, because sometimes I got the pitches like something that I actually do provide. So like they are just sending the cards or sending their requests randomly. They don't even go through that what the person is. So uh, just one advice to all, that before even having a cold call, just at least go through the profile of the person and then send a cold call. So that's the one advice. And thank you so much Derek, for joining us today.
My
It was
pleasure.
an honor. It was an honor to have you. I'm a great fan of you, so that's really a
Thank you.
pleasure to have you on my show. And thanks for sharing such wonderful insights. Our audience must have learned a lot from you. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Happy to help, and thank you very much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, and thanks to all the audience who joined us today. And if anyone of you wants to have any service from Derek, please get in touch with him. And have a great day ahead. Thank you so much, and bye bye.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amber.